Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I would like to share with you the textbook. This is the textbook for MGMT 1301, Principles and Practice of Management. Okay, Management textbook, 15th edition, written by Stephen P. Robbins and Mary Cotter, 15th edition. Okay, and this is the copyright page, acknowledgement. Okay, this is the table of contents. Okay, if you wanted to find or read certain chapters, so you should use table of contents. So in our class, okay, we will cover chapter 1, okay, managers and you in the workplace, management history module, chapter 2, making decisions, chapter 3, influence of external environment and organizational culture, chapter 5, managing diversity, chapter 6, managing social responsibility and ethics, chapter 8, foundations of planning, chapter 9, managing strategy, chapter 11, designing organizational structure, chapter 14, managing communication, chapter 16, motivating employees, chapter 17, being an effective leader, and finally chapter 18. So this will be the chapters that we are going to cover, okay, in our class. So you should read, these chapters. Okay, if you just rely on PowerPoints, will not be enough. Okay? The detail will be from the textbook. Okay? For the quiz and exam, final exam, 50% of your assessment coming from the textbook. Okay, and these are the details in each of the chapters. Okay, and the chapter 1, what will be the key subtopics? So they will be mentioning who is a manager, where do managers work, why are managers important, okay, management versus managers, what is management, okay, what do managers do, okay, what are the challenges, okay, why study management, okay, and then they also have reinforcing your understanding, with cases, okay, and then they also have the quizzes, okay, for you to attempt, okay, and also some guideline on how you can apply management skill. And also we have case application 1 and 2. Even though we don't test you in the quiz, but we will test you in the final exam, and there will be case application. There will be not by topic, but rather by comprehensive. I mean to say that all the contents of management will be covered in one comprehensive case. For you to familiar with yourself, you should try to read the case application and try to comprehend and try to answer the questions. Okay, so each of the chapters will have the topics, and also there will be review questions for you to attempt. Okay? You should be making use of the textbook that you are possessing, whether you are having in the form of PDF here or you decided to purchase a hard copy. It is your choice. Okay, if you were to use PDF, then you need to use on your suitable digital platform. But if you have hard copy, so you can read at anywhere at any time, even though you do not have any digital devices. So you decide whether you want to have this PDF copy or you want to have a real textbook, which you can purchase from the student representative. I came to know that students arrange with the publisher to sell the textbook for all of you. Okay, this is the textbook that you should you shouldn't separate yourself from textbook when you study management subject. So they also give you the guideline. Okay, what are the things that you need to know, how to use, how to read the textbook. Okay, and then they provide each of the chapter with some guideline related to your career, because you have to apply this, practice this. And in our limitation time during lecture, I might not be able to cover all this. So to complement you, it's under your student learning time, self or independent learning. So this supposed to be your learning times. Okay, brothers and sisters, please follow the guideline given by the textbook. They guide you how to make use of the textbook, and also they provide you the additional references. Okay, this is the background about the authors. Okay. Okay, now we have done in week 1 on chapter 1, managers and you in the workplace. So before they covered everything, they inform you what are the learning objectives, and also they provide you with the background and overview. Okay, and then they will define, they will explain who is a manager, and then they relate managers to someone who coordinates and oversees the work of others, so that the goal of organization can be accomplished. This is what you have. This is what you have in your slide, but you don't have the explanation from the authors. But you have explanation from me. But if you are not able to follow my explanation, this is what you have to do. Read. Okay, and then we say that managers are divided into several categories: first line managers, middle managers, and top managers. They also give the example, and also they provide example in the organization that familiar by the authors, not Malaysia, but at least you can read how they apply. And where do managers work? They work in organization. So what you have in your slide is only this, the 3 characteristics of an organization. But you don't have the full explanation. This where they also provide you with with some notification here, announcement, and then they continue with the learning objective number 2. Okay, why are managers important? Okay, they provide that. But of course, in the US context, okay, and then they talk about what is management and who are managers and why is that. They provided they provided this efficiency and effectiveness, okay, as the aims of management. Okay, and then how the management can be done by knowing the management functions, okay? Planning, organizing, leading, controlling, and they give also example. Okay, okay, and then the interpersonal roles, decisional role, all these managerial roles. All right, and then they also provided with the explanation. Okay, they reinforce, and they have the marginal notes for you to quickly understand the 3 categories of managerial roles. And then more importantly, managers function job that they mentioned must be sustainable, must be relevant. So therefore it has to be related to the context of the contemporary. Okay, when we have the domination of technology, okay, we have the disruptive of innovation, okay, the social media, and also they have they also have some case here, a case that you can relate, failure for managers to adapt to the changes. For example, in the past we used to have Nokia, we used to have used to have Ericsson, but all of them already gone. When we have Android, even BlackBerry also already gone. At the same time, also people nowadays are very concerned about ethics. Okay, people are very concerned about the stability and also the customer orientation. And then why study management? So to convince you that by studying management, it is not something that just to fulfill your entry requirement or your graduation requirement, but rather whether you like it or not, whether you work alone, whether you are going to work for others, be employed, or you employ others. So management knowledge is very important. Okay, even at home, at home also if you apply management, you can achieve the efficiency and the effectiveness. So rewards here that you can manage to get things done with efficiency and effectiveness. So the textbook also relate you to the reality of the workplace. Okay, so reality is that even though we know we cannot assume that the workplace is stable, because there are so a lot of varieties. Maybe some of them, okay, that you need to know. All right, and then how that relate to your employment skill. So, for example, what are the skills that are very important? And then how that relate to the managerial skill. Okay? So when you apply this, so then you will get, you can reinforce yourself, prepare yourself to be workers or to be entrepreneurs. And then at the end, they provide you the summary of what the chapter is all about. Okay, and this is to give you a quick learning. Okay, and then don't forget, to attempt all these questions. Okay, so these are some of the questions that will be tested in the quiz, will be tested in an exam. Okay, if you do all of them, inshallah, you should be able to answer. The only lacking in this textbook, they don't have the Islamization, Tawhidic paradigms, Maqasid Sharia. So as I said earlier, Maqasid Sharia or Islamic perspective, you can use your general knowledge. For example, we talk about managerial roles. Actually, we are talking about your roles as servants and viceroy of Allah. These two roles are actually dual together. When you are alive, you are servant and viceroy. So when you do things, everything is constant ibadah. And therefore, there is no separation actually between being a good servant and also being a good Khalifah. So you can relate. When you perform tasks, of course, you have to do with efficiency and effectiveness, and you have to do it with a good performance. Okay, at the same time also they provide you some skill, how skill to be managers. So this one you can apply also. You don't have to show to me. You can apply in your group activities. You also can try the activities that suggested by the authors. So this is what I mean, the case application that will be tested in the final exam. So case is a story actually. Okay, but this story is about working with artificial intelligence. So they provide you the story. And these are the story at this company. And then there'll be question. They will ask you. Okay. And of course, the answer is not going to be direct. You can just pick from paragraph 1 or pick from paragraph 3. So you have to make sense. In what ways the machine add to the work of managers and other employees. Okay. After reading this, you understand what are managers' job and why managers are important. Then can you see whether or not what will be the role of a machine, whether they are, in what way they're going to help managers to do things. All right, what will be the job of manager in the presence of AI, artificial intelligence, in the 2020? This one you have to do imagination. Okay, what kind of skill or task do you think that least are likely to be done by machine and computers? Which one out of, let's say, is it a technical skill? Is it conceptual skill? Is it a human skill? Can human skill, can we use computers, to help managers to do the human skill? Okay, that's first case. So another case, Nike, so the same thing. And also for you to do further reading, you can have this, readings. Okay, for this week, inshallah, we'll be talking about the management history module. Okay, so because we talk about get things done, coordinate, arrange and coordinate with others, and all those managers' tasks, manager roles, basically. Actually, they're coming from where? Okay, what is the root? What is the root of the management that we're studying in our textbook? All right, in the early management, okay, in the past, if you observe this, the pyramid, it took more than 100,000 workers for about 20 years to construct this Egyptian pyramid. Okay. You must be imagine how actually to arrange the works of 100 workers, how are you going to coordinate? So there must be some ways, some mechanism that over 20 years and more than 100,000 workers been used, right? How they're going to tell them, okay, do what? You do this, you have to do that, and then someone else to do the supervision, someone else to make sure that the pyramid is built according to the expectation. And all this has been also put into a scholarly work by the father of capitalism, Adam Smith. In 1776, he published The Wealth of the Nations, an inquiry into the nature and surface on the wealth of nation by Adam Smith. At the end, he said that in order for us to get the efficiency and effectiveness, we need to have the division of labor. In other words, tasks must be divided, and the person to do the task must have knowledge, abilities, and skill to perform the task. And then when the European experienced, the Industrial Revolution, which is the manufacturing, turned the raw materials into finished goods. So they use factory, and then the factory required coordination, require arrangement of work. And then during the Industrial Revolution, from the First World War until the Second World War, so the use of classical approach to management. Classical approach means to say we have the scientific and also the general administrative, and scholars contributed to this important theories and classical approaches. We have the scientific management theory by Frederick W. Taylor and then Frank and Lillian Gilbreth, and Henry Foyle and Max Weber contribute to the general administrative theory. The scientific management by Frederick Taylor, or we know also known as Taylor's principles of scientific management. So management approaches, we have scientific and administrative. Before that, we used to have the pyramid management way, Adam Smith and the Industrial Revolution. During the First World War until the Second World War, so we have the scientific and the general administrative. Why it is scientific? Because they use scientific method to define the best way to perform tasks. And if you look at here, how to perform tasks, actually based on their own experience, try and error. And then through observation, then they decided that actually the principle that we need to, the scientific way is actually to replace the old rule of thumb. Rule of thumb was without any scientific backup. So we need to have the scientific way. And then we need to also train people scientifically, step by step. And we need also to emphasize on the cooperation, on the principle of science between the workers. And we need to divide the job between the management and the workers. And this all follow the step by step the procedures, and will be improved from time to time. Another one is by Frank Gilbert and Lillian, psychologists. They also observe that in order for us to be efficient, so we need to reduce any possibility of wasting time if we have redundancy, etc. In the context of what these couples tried or experimented at their place. All right, and then how actually managers use scientific management. The principle that we see, the scientific the division of tasks, and then scientifically proven based on our observation, in order for us to make sure that we reach the efficiency, and therefore when we perform tasks, we have to make sure that we will eliminate any wasted motion, and we need to hire the most qualified workers, And we have to design system that is based on the scientific principles, not based on assumption, but rather based on the proven data and also proven practice. Okay, the general administrative theory focusing on what managers do and what defined as good practice. Okay, they also come up with the principles of management, and Max Weber come up with the bureaucracy. So when you have division of labor, you have to define the hierarchy, and therefore you need to have the detail. So you cannot cross the boundaries. So the FIOS very popular 14 principle of management. Okay, what we have now is just to do the arrangement and the supervision, but actually the principle behind this and get things done with efficiency and effectiveness actually based on the 14 principle by FIOS: division of tasks, division of work, authority, discipline, command, interaction, subordination of individuals, remuneration, centralization, the scala change, okay, from the top to the bottom, the order, and equity, stability, initiative, and more importantly, we're working together as per the calls. Okay, bureaucracy, this is what we have now in the bureaucratic process. We see very bureaucratic, very rigid. But actually, it is not. It is not meant to be rigid, but rather meant to have scientific way of doing things. In today's world, managers use from tellers and also from Webers, okay, what we call now the functional view of the manager's job, okay, and we're talking about the bureaucracy, the process, in the, for example, in the division of labor, okay, jobs are broken into different categories, different tasks, and define. We have the authority in charge, okay, and then selection based on the criteria, and we have rules and regulation, okay. And in personality, there is no bias, and also career orientation. Managers are career professional, not owners. Or okay, they are not the owners. They are not the owner of the organization, but they are being hired. So that's why you see CEO can be hired by this company. Okay, after 2-3 years, they will be hired by another company and so forth. All right. Besides the classical approach based on scientific and also bureaucratic, we also have the behavioral approach. Okay, behavioral based on the behavior of people, okay, on the people themselves. So in organization, we call the organization behavior. So behavior in organization. So how people behave, how people think, how people feel, how people wanted to do things. So we have to look at this aspect of behavior. All right. So when it comes to behavior, normally the popular studies is under the we call the Hawthorne studies. Yeah? This study conducted at the Western Electric company, Hawthorne. This study examined the effect of various lighting levels on workers' productivity. Okay, and by having different lighting levels, you can see of a different reaction of the workers. Okay, some of the early OB, organizational behavior scholars, Robert Owens, talking about the working conditions. It will also affect the people. Hugo Masterberg talking about psychology at the workplace. So if you want to select people, you cannot miss out, the psychology parts of the workers. Okay, Mary Parker Follett talking about the individual and group behavior, whether we should be more of people-oriented or production-oriented. Justin Burnett talking about managers and organizations into the social system that require cooperation between managers and the employees. Okay, and then so behaviorals in today's how we design job, we have to reflect the kind of job delivery of our work, whether individual level, also we have to have concern, and also the team or group level. And the post during the Second World War time, also it has been emphasized on the quantitative and the mathematics or management science. Okay, we have the operation science statistic we use to do prediction, to do to do assessment and whatnot. And that is where we have the idea what we call the total quality management. So we're talking about ISO, we're talking about productivity, in the Japanese called the Kaizen. So this talking about using quantitative ways, to measure our performance. Okay? In the context of today's managers quantitative for budgeting, for scheduling, quality control, for monitoring and so forth. All right. So this quality management is very important to ensure the efficiency and also to ensure the continuous improvement. Okay, from 1960s until today, we're talking about the content approach. So we have to work within the system, and therefore we have to create the correct ecosystem so that we can provide the arrangement and also coordination. Okay, because everything is not is interrelated. If in the closed system we don't interact with the external, but when we're in the open system we interact with so many external forces, right? So everything that happen in the world will have effect to our managerial approaches, and therefore, so we are not going to say that this is the best way to manage our company, but rather we call it depends. This is what we call the contingency approach or situational approach. That we are different, we use different way to manage our company because we have different situation. We are different contingencies, we are different workers, different, we are unique in terms of our objective and so forth. Okay, so we talk about open system. So even though the basic is input, process and output, but we have to interact with the internal and also the external environmental factors, and they will change whether we should continue. If we continue with the same managerial approach, you might not be able to get the optimum results, and therefore you have to adapt and adapt to the changes. Okay, for example, like when we already have big data, we have continuous innovation, so we can't afford to continue with our old ways of doing things. So we can't afford to have the old school way. All right, so finally, so these are the summary of what you have in this management module. We are talking about the early management example and the various theories, okay, and then development, of and the use of the various approaches. We have the content approach and finally the content approach. Okay, and then in our context, Islam is actually not being experimented, but rather it is a commandment from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Okay, but how are we going to do according to our context, etc. And then we are given the wisdom. We are given wisdom, the intellectual. We are given also the cooperation. We can do the ta'aruf ma'as, and that is what we call the reasoning. We have the revelation from the Quran and the Hadith, and also we have the reasoning. And the reasoning must be guided by the Quran, Quran and the Sunnah. And that's why we have the knowledge called Maqasid al-Shari'ah. Okay. So these are the further readings for this module. All right. So I already mentioned to you how you're going to make use of the textbook for chapter 1 and also the history, elements of management. All right. This is how the textbook being used. Make use of the textbook. If you don't use textbook, you just rely on the slides or just rely on my storytelling. Sometimes due to technical reason, I might not be able to use the slides because of the technical difficulties. But we cannot stop. We continue. We continue our class. We continue our class. So on your part, okay, get ready. Okay. Our face-to-face is supposed to be the more of your interaction, more of clarification. But see, nobody asked question, nobody prepared themselves, with the subject. So I continue with my not really lectures, but reflection. Okay, what the material already used and also my own experience. Okay, because I also used to be managers before joining the university, and also I used also to be managers in the past within IIM. All right, so I hope that all of you will make use of your textbook. Okay, with that, wabillahi taufiq hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.